liken Adriana to an absolutely gorgeous Hollywood period costume drama from the 1930s, or something like that. It's just sheer indulgence. Now, teasing out a sort of interesting dramaturgy is the challenge with a piece like Adriana, but I think in the setting of our production, where we actually use the stage of a theatre as a metaphor, I think we managed to bed it down, to give it some backbone, to give it more structure, and we managed to explore the character of Adriana in more depth, because what is interesting about her is at what point does the actress become a real woman? At what point does the actress stop play acting? Does she even appreciate that? Is she even aware of when she's living and constructing fantasy, or when she's grounded and she actually is who she is? And I do think in the final act, where the lovers, Maurizio, returns to her, and she very gently rejects him in a moment of incredible clarity. This is just before she dies of the poisoned violets. It's a hugely affecting point in the story, and it actually is a hugely affecting opera. It's very, very touching, as well as just being lavish and gorgeous and sumptuous, and intensely romantic in the modern sense of the word romantic. The real Adriana Lecouvreur, when she died, famously was denied Christian burial, and Voltaire got very irated about this, and wrote a tract about saying how unfair this is, that such a great artist was regarded by society as nothing more than a common streetwalker at the end of the day. Her lover, Maurice de Saxe, was obviously a very different character from Maurizio, the Italian tenor. So it's interesting to do the historical research, but it's not interesting to get bedded down in it. It's not interesting to be trapped by it, because this really is a hyper-operatic treatment of these historical characters, while still telling the story in its period, which we made a decision to do because we just wanted to serve up the full-blooded romanticism of this. I think you have to be guided by the material that you have and love it for what it is, and make the most of it. Two things guide my judgment whether I'm going to take a story out of its original period and update it and transplant it to somewhere else. Two things: the character of the music, the score, what you're actually dealing with. Can the score take that kind of adaptation, that kind of wrenching of the story out of its original context? The other thing is, would the characters make sense? Would the relationships of the characters make sense? Would the society they live in make sense if I set Adriana in, I don't know, Los Angeles, which is perfectly possible. I can imagine you could do that. Ultimately, I decided not to because of the lushness of the music, the sort of hyper-operatic nature of it, and I mean that in a good way. It's like opera with a big O. It is what it is, a romantic fantasy. It is like having dessert for every course. I just felt that the music demanded a similarly lavish visualization. Otherwise, we'd be counteracting it. We'd be denying what it is. If you like an experience at the opera where your senses are lavished with beauty and romance and energy and fun, Adriana is a perfect thing to come and see. It's a perfect vehicle for that kind of experience. As I've said before, Adriana is opera with a capital O. It's hyper opera. It almost celebrates the operatic experience itself, how irrational that can be, how silly that can be sometimes, but also just how beautiful it can be.